Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. Tesla in Chile?
It's more lithium-ion mining coming.
And BMW stops making ICE engines?
Is Tesla going to sue you for $50,000?
I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner.
Those and other stories as we continue here. So one of the first news items is our background. That was generated by AI, and as you know, that's not new to these shows. We do that regularly, but we've been using Midjourney, which is an image-generating AI software. Just 45 minutes ago or so, Jesse says to me, do you know that ChatGPT-4 now can render images because it's linked with DALL-E? And he got a beautiful image of a Tesla Model S. So I experimented, tried it, and sure enough, it came up with something. This was a prompt, very simple. It says, give me a futuristic news studio. And it did so. And if you notice, in the back is a sign that says Global News. And it's spelled correctly. It's not gibberish.
I do.
There is no way that we had ever gotten Midjourney to generate any kind of appropriate text or words in any language for that matter. But because ChatGPT-4 is a large language model, it has no problem generating words.
Sure, and it generates similarly just really stunning news studio. I would not have known the difference between that and Midjourney. Excellent work that it does.
So we'll be using ChatGPT-4 for some of our images now, and we'll let you know which we're using. A lot of our viewers are interested in getting into AI, and we'll share our experiences as we experience them. For those of you that are coming in, asking questions, let us know where you're coming in from. As always, we have our regular audience, and we always enjoy having new people, and people like seeing what parts of the world are chiming in.
Definitely. In fact, our first comment comes from Instagram from Soul to Stone, says, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Obviously not in Phoenix, Arizona. It's still 10 o'clock here, but welcome.
Welcome and good afternoon to you.
So one of the first news items that I have for you is Exxon wants to be the leading lithium supplier for EVs by the year 2030, 7 years away, which of course is a smart move for them because, you know, they're the leading supplier of oil at this point, or fossil fuels. And this is where they should be heading. They plan to begin producing lithium in the state of Arkansas, of all places, in 2027. And they are going to be making large-scale batteries for the first time that this oil giant has invested in a major fossil fuel extraction project or non-fossil fuel extraction project in recent history. They have acquired 120,000 acres in Smackover Formation in southern Arizona.
In Arkansas. In
Arkansas, yes. I'm sorry, Arizona, Arkansas.
Yes, it's in Arkansas.
And they plan to begin output in 2027. And this was a statement that was released just Monday this week. This project, they say, will make Exxon the leading supplier for electric vehicles by 2030. That is a noble goal. They say that Exxon is one of several oil and gas companies that are looking to expand into lithium, which would provide a foothold in the rapidly growing market for energy storage. You know, my only concern with this is it's a dangerous time to select a battery technology because of the rapid evolution of technology.
It is a little bit of a dangerous time. So far, I believe that lithium is going to have a role almost no matter what happens in the future. I think even the solid-state batteries may end up with a lithium component for that solid ion. You know, this formation in Arkansas is massive.
Really?
I learned that by some estimates, there may be enough lithium in this formation to power 50 million electric vehicles.
Wow, okay.
And so most of it is dissolved lithium salts that are in water, so it's brackish water, and Exxon's planning on pursuing a much greener option than has traditionally been done with strip mining, where they're going to pull out the water, extract the lithium, and then pump the water right back underground.
Hopefully clean and, uncontaminated. Yep. So they say that the oil giant has also held talks with Tesla, Ford, Volkswagen, and other automakers this year as it seeks to build a business around this metal, according to Bloomberg News, reported in July. Lithium, as they say, is not geologically scarce, like the fellow battery metals, cobalt and nickel, but the mining of high-grade quantities at scale is a major challenge. And they said that they may even start producing it from salt water, such as brine, because it could be both cheaper and greener than currently mining or the most common production method.
Yeah, that if you remember, several months ago we talked about how much lithium salt is dissolved in the ocean water, and how it could be 100 times the known reserves of lithium on land. And to me, this is where I think Exxon is going to be going as well. They're going to try to build the extraction plants so that it comes from the well to the plant, gets refined right there on site, and what comes out is going to be high-grade lithium.
You know, they also mention that they believe that their expertise in drilling and processing liquids can give the company a competitive advantage in obtaining lithium from underground saltwater deposits.
Yeah, I think this is a really cool development. The demand of lithium, even though there's been a lot of press over the last probably 2 to 3 months about, well, EV demand is softening and blah blah blah. Lithium demand is supposed to go up between 5 times and 6 times between now and 2030. A lot of that's going to be driven by electric vehicles, and a lot of the investment side is driven by our own federal government giving subsidies to companies that like to do the investment in green technology early. So there's very little, greatly reduces the risk to the big giants like Exxon.
They say that there are some other fossil fuel producers or generators or processors that are also looking at this. Occidental Petroleum and SLB, which are the world's biggest oil service providers, have said that they're also exploring brine-based lithium production.
Very interesting. So from Instagram, Sol de Son says he's from southwestern Florida. So thank you again. Thanks for giving us where you're from.
And then Instagram, the Wild Bunch of Wolves says 9 a.m. in California. Yeah, you guys are an hour behind us now. PST versus MST. Finally on daylight savings time. You know, the reason I think that we never went on daylight savings time, this is the Valley of the Sun, and we have plenty of light, so we don't need to.
Yeah, why? You know, we have that heat late into the evening already. Why would we want the heat to last an hour later in the day?
Even more, yeah. Here's another headline. BMW no longer builds combustion engines in Germany. They say that BMW has ended the production of ICE engines at its main plant in Munich. And they say this long-announced step was taken to make room for the production of electric cars at the Bavarian plant. Now, where are they going to be building them? Well, they have completely relocated the production of ICE engines to Steyr, which is in Austria, and Hams Hall in the UK. They announced this move, the announcement was made November 2020, and the last 8-cylinder engine was assembled at the plant in Munich in this month, actually, November 2023. And that's after 60 years of engine production in Munich. And this is a turning point for Bayerische Motorwerke, which is what BMW stands for. So the facility that they are converting now will be strictly for EVs. And the all-electric BMW i4 has been built in Munich since October 2021.
Okay.
As reported in New Class, which will also be rolling off the production line at the main plant for 2026, BMW is investing around 400 million euros in converting the existing engine assembly line for vehicle construction. So it looks like a hefty investment. We go to Germany at least every 3 years until COVID anyway. And I was surprised always their lack of enthusiasm about electric vehicles. They're a pretty they hesitate quite a bit. Whereas Norway, on the other hand, just jumped in with both feet. But it's heartwarming to see that despite Germany's willingness to adopt other technologies, I mean, 30, 40 years ago, you could drive out into Bavarian countryside and you'd see farmhouses with, the cows in the field and the various grains that they were harvesting and planting with solar on these old, multi-hundred-year-old farmhouses. So I was surprised that they didn't warm up to vehicles at the same pace as they did to these other technologies.
Yeah, I was too, because from a political standpoint, it seems like electric vehicles and electric vehicle technology have become highly politicized here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been one of the things that's held our adoption rate down. Here in the U.S., there's a lot of resistance as well. The adoption rate is only about 8%. In Europe overall, it seems like there is a wider range of politics, and that the EV revolution is not as political as here in the U.S. Overall, Europe is at 15% now this year.
Are they?
On the
Okay.
adoption rate. So they're picking up faster. Of course, nations like Norway are leading the charge at almost 80% adoption. When you're getting to those 15% rates, we've seen the inverted S curve before.
Mm-hmm.
That means you're on the upswing on that inverted S curve for the new EV technology. Makes perfect sense that a place like BMW would want to continue to invest and begin to switch further into EVs.
So earlier this year, we were in Dijon, France, at a chateau in the wine growing region. And I was disappointed again to see very few electric cars on the road. However, the chateau we were staying at had destination chargers. And the very last day that we were there, a couple of Teslas actually showed up.
Oh, okay.
So they do have them.
They do have them, and just this weekend we were, walking into the grocery store to get some groceries, and I look and I see this BMW SUV. I'm like, that's a nice looking car. Look in, you see the little console and stuff, and then the first thing something seemed different, and I'm like, that's electric, isn't it? And sure enough, I walk around here in Arizona. You have those blue sky plates for battery electric vehicles, and it was a battery electric BMW. A beautiful, beautiful SUV.
Mm-hmm. And no tailpipes.
No tailpipes. No
That's the other
tailpipes.
thing we look for. So you may be asking, what are they going to do with the 1,200 employees who previously worked at this engine construction facility? Well, they say they will now be retrained and deployed into other areas in the future, either at the Munich plant or at the other BMW locations. The Works Council expressly welcomed the decision, and a multi-million euro investment in 2020, and spoke of the role model that the BMW is for successfully organizing this transformation in the German industry.
Well, I like that BMW is hanging on to all their employees. I do realize the labor culture is a little different in Germany and in Europe than it is here in the United States. Here in the States, the manufacturers would be more likely just to lay them off and hire new employees as needed.
Yes. Yeah. It's the German work ethic and labor policies are substantially different than what's in the United States.
Yeah, definitely. Well, keep the questions coming. We're seeing that we have one more comment on Instagram, but haven't seen anything come in on our other platforms yet. The Wild Bunch of Wolves has joined us. Says it's 9 a.m. in California.
Mm-hmm. One other item here regarding the BMW expansion into EVs in Munich. They said at the end of September, the residents of a German municipality of Straßkirchen, which means street church, by the way, literally, also decided in a referendum that BMW should be allowed to build its planned battery assembly plant there in the future, which isn't too far from this BMW EV plant.
Oh,
so it looks like to improve supply chain, they're going to put a battery plant in as well, and they will then be distributed to the neighboring vehicle plants there.
With some of the people that have opposed Tesla, the environmentalists that have opposed Tesla putting its plants in Germany, this is kind of refreshing to see.
It is, yeah. Yeah, if you remember Giga Berlin, it was painful to watch the regulatory process slow things down there when Shanghai was up and running in just under a year.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
All right, we've got TikTok. Only my dog loves me says, how bright is it in that room? And I think the question really is asking, why are we wearing sunglasses? So it's the first sunglasses question. I actually had a tour come through yesterday, and they typically ask about our videos and the sunglasses, and I always promise them that if they come here for a tour, we will reveal the secret. So there are a number of people out there that already know the real reason for sunglasses. And as always, they were surprised. They found it humorous. And when we do that video, I think you'll find that too. But you'll just have to be patient or fly out here to Phoenix and take a tour of Gruber Motor Company.
We do keep the tours open on a daily basis. Anybody who wants to come, it's always a privilege for us to give those tours.
And always with the prompting. When a sunglass question comes up, we have to promote these sunglass holders. These are available on the Gruber Motor Company website for $79.99, but for a limited time, if you use code Richard or Aaron, you'll get 10% off.
Will we eventually be putting code CASS in there as well?
I'm not too sure. We should.
There's not enough letters. Just use Aaron.
Okay, good point. Yes. Yeah.
Bruh.
All right, so here's a headline. Tesla will sue you for $50,000 if you try to resell your Cybertruck in the first year. So actually, there's a bit more research to this, but let me read you the article the way that it was actually published. So the customers set to receive the first Tesla Cybertrucks this November cannot resell their vehicles during the first year, according to Tesla's terms and conditions. And then Tesla added a section called for Cybertruck only to its motor vehicle order agreement, which laid out the new rules. And they are, you agree that you will not sell or otherwise attempt to sell the vehicle within the first year following your vehicle's delivery date, it says. It also adds Tesla may seek injunctive relief to prevent the transfer of title of the vehicle or demand liquidated damages from you in the amount of $50,000 or the value received as consideration for the sale or transfer, whichever is greater. And Tesla may also refuse to sell you any future vehicles. But if a customer has good reason to sell their Cybertruck, they say, and I don't know what those are, they don't outline them.
Right.
Tesla may agree to buy it back at the original price minus 25 cents a mile driven and reasonable wear and tear, and the cost to repair the vehicle to Tesla's used vehicle cosmetic and mechanical standards. If Tesla does not want to purchase the vehicle, the company may then agree to let the customer sell it to someone else. All right, going a little bit further here. Given the subscription model of much of the software that Tesla EVs use, resale could be complicated. The full self-driving feature, which will cost you $200 per month, is not transferable to a new customer. Now, first announced in 2019, the Cybertruck is Tesla's first new product in years, and it is expected to shake up the electric pickup truck market. Now, Tesla did say that the original price would start at $39,900, but it's likely to be much more expensive due to the pricing building material increases or cost increases. Now, also Elon added in an earnings call earlier this year that it would take a year to 18 months before the EV truck can become a significant cash flow contributor. And he hoped that production of the Cybertruck would reach 250,000 annually by 2025. So we've been talking often about that $2 million backlog, the pre-order backlog. It would take quite some time before that is relieved. Now, in the meantime, you had done some research and you found that some of what was reported in this article as of yesterday may have been changed at this point.
It might have been changed. You know, one of the first things I did is I was doing my background research to get some color, as it were, some comments. Wanted to see what other automakers have done and if this was unique. It's not very unique. For example, on certain GM vehicles, the Corvette Z06, the Hummer EV, the Escalade V, these are, or other GM vehicles that are considered low volume, high demand vehicles. GM will put in their terms of sale that if someone tries selling the vehicle within the first 6 months after taking delivery, that the vehicle will lose its vehicle warranty, and that person will be blacklisted and will never again be allowed to put their name in to buy a low volume, high demand vehicle.
Wow.
From General Motors. But it doesn't go as far as what Tesla has tried to do. That's, Tesla's saying, if you sold your car to me, they're going to take the money and the car from, they're going to take the money from me, maybe take the car from you and make it so you can never buy a Tesla again.
Right.
Well, that's kind of crazy. And I don't know that would be enforceable. But then I started looking, and I found an article yesterday afternoon from John Brodkin from Ars Technica. He wasn't the first one in the press to put out anything on this article, and as such, he had the benefit of seeing what was going on real time. And he wrote that this clause was deleted as I was preparing the article to post. It says apparently Tesla took on their terms and conditions once that news outlets picked up the story about these terms and conditions, they changed them.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I can't find those terms and conditions any longer on Tesla's site, and yet I could find them the day before.
Wayback Machine.
Wayback Machine. You only have to go back to the 12th of November. This was posted yesterday at 1:05 in the afternoon. Another interesting note that I found came from a contract attorney named Akiva Cohen. Mm-hmm. It appears that Tesla's terms, and like you just mentioned, that Tesla has the option to buy their Cybertruck back after accounting for 25 cents a mile, normal wear and tear and repairs. That's more of a right of first refusal offer as opposed to simply a sale prohibition. Mm-hmm. Where Tesla's saying, if you give us right of first refusal and we refuse to buy the car, then you're free to do what you want. If you don't give us right of first refusal, then we're going to come after you. From a legal standpoint, that is typically considered more enforceable in court than not. Although, going back just a few years, John Cena had a $450,000 Ford GT. He bought it. Within a month or two, he sold it. He had one of these agreements with Ford that he was not supposed to sell it. He got a big profit from it. Ford sued him. And as a result of the lawsuit, John Cena had to apologize publicly to Ford and to the fans, and was fined. Ford took the fine and then donated it to charity. But while numbers were not announced, it's commonly believed that the fine was at least as much as the profit that John Cena obtained from the sale of his Ford GT.
Amazing. So there's some legal precedent set with this.
Yeah, so there is some legal precedent to it. The right of first refusal is kind of a unique take. That's not something that other people have done, but the $50,000 is also unique, and I don't know if that one's enforceable or not.
So maybe we should talk a bit about why are they doing this? Scalping, for example, ticket scalping is quite common, and somebody's profiting. The dealers selling the U.S. manufacturers' cars, they're also scalping.
Oh,
Although
absolutely.
They don't own the car, but they're definitely putting a huge surcharge on those cars. So what do you think the reasons that Tesla was trying to do this in the first place?
Oh, and I think that's exactly what's going on here, too. Somebody wants to either sell their reservation for a few $100,000, or if they can't sell the reservation, they want to get arrange the sale of the vehicle ahead of time, take delivery, and then turn it around and flip it and make maybe a couple $100,000 on the sale of the vehicle that way. Mm-hmm. Tesla is trying to restrict this customer flipping type of activity, and it's no different than what the other manufacturers are doing.
Mm-hmm. Question that I would have then, how does it harm the auto manufacturer if this kind of activity takes place?
I I'm thinking that my own personal opinion, it can harm the manufacturer because it helps to reduce the demand and it clouds the waters for those people who want to legitimately buy the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
People who have say I got a Tesla Cybertruck and I wanted one, so I put my name in for the reservation. I waited for it, but then I get an offer that's $100,000 more. Okay, now I'm going to wait until the end of the line to maybe get another Cybertruck in the future, and somebody else who also wants a Cybertruck now has a Cybertruck. Two people's demand has been satisfied with one truck. That's not what Tesla wants.
Mm-hmm.
Tesla wants two people's demand to get satisfied with two Cybertrucks.
Two right. The other thing that comes to mind is, I mean, we've seen the housing market here in the state of Arizona just go crazy, and it's not uncommon for people to flip houses, but it's interesting that the terms have changed in that short a period of time. And one might think that Tesla would have reviewed the policy or ran it by legal, or maybe did, and they missed some of these things.
Well, I'm thinking that Tesla ran the policy by legal, got the blessing, but didn't run it by the sales guys.
Okay, good point.
And as soon as they started to get all the bad press, the sales guys are like, time out a second. Why did you ever allow this to happen? And legal's like, oh, we're not salespeople.
Which, as we know, is quite common. Yeah, one group did not confer with the other. Got a bunch of things coming in here. We've got YouTube, somebody called Banana Man. He said, I saw one of Cadillac's new EVs. Couldn't tell you what it was, but it was slick. And when I first read that, I thought sick, because that has become a term that is quite common. TikTok, False Hopes, is giving us a bunch of emojis with smiling sunglass suns. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you. On Instagram, let's see, Vasukan Appas. I hope I got that one right.
That sounds good.
Hi, I see adoption rates are also increasing in India as well, he says. What's the adoption rate in China, may I ask? I know that in general, the adoption rate throughout Asia, so that would include China, India, in the Korean Peninsula, up above 20%. I think it's around 22 or 23% the last time I looked.
That's correct. I looked it up.
Thank you, Cass.
Thank you, Cass. Yeah. And then Europe, we said, was about 15, with Norway leading the charge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those numbers have gone double digit. If you remember 6 months ago, we were talking and they were below 10%.
Yeah, they were below 10% through everywhere. And here in the United States, we were excited because it was at 3%.
Exactly. YouTube, Crunch of Grace Hopper's joining us. Welcome. He says,
Good morning.
Thumbs up, number 327 from Newport Beach, SoCal. Caught up soon. Smash that like button, y'all. I'm headed to Texas this Friday for the Starship launch attempt. He says, any chance to drop by the shop on the flip-flop? Absolutely,
Oh,
Crunchy.
yeah, we'd love to meet you.
Yeah, and you're headed back this way if you're going from SoCal to Texas, so it's on your way. YouTube Banana Man says, wouldn't it be beneficial for Tesla to allow a secondary market, meaning a resale market?
Eventually, yes. I think Tesla is trying to, as they ramp up their production, they're trying to help protect that market to start with, though, so that I think it would complicate things if there's any recalls or anything like that as well.
And, it could just be that they didn't want Sandy to buy one of these Cybertrucks for teardown. This
That's
whole
right.
thing may have been staged because of that.
That's
Because he
right.
was pretty adamant about the fact that he was ready to buy a Cybertruck from somebody that had an early, registration. So TikTok, False Hope, says people out here are scalping Cybertrucks. Most likely, yes.
Most likely. Smuggler is here on TikTok. Welcome, Smuggler. Glad to see you back. He sent a heart gift for us.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
And as he points out, that this activity that we've been talking about creates an inflated value. Yeah, you go to a car dealer, try to buy a Ford F-150 Lightning, and you're suddenly thinking, what happened to the $60,000? It's now $90,000 or $100,000,
Yeah. The same thing was happening with the Ford Mustang.
Yeah.
My wife and I, when we were looking for our next EV, we were looking at the Mustangs and saw them running between $85,000 and $95,000. We're like, yeah, this isn't even a $45,000 car. I'm not going to pay anywhere close to that.
Right. It looks like Niels has joined us from Denmark. Welcome. He says, the land of the free, but can't sell your car. He's in a different country, folks, so he gets a chance to disparage the U.S. at times. Couldn't Tesla just put up the possibility of paying more than retail price to get the Cybertruck early? Yeah, that's true. They could reprice these things and have like a surcharge for early delivery. There you go.
Yeah.
And benefit from that and kill the scalping effort. I needed to come back down again, guys. There was a part I didn't read yet. And then he says, and then Tesla gets to keep the money. Exactly. The revenue goes back to the manufacturer.
Yeah. It's ethically, I think it's kind of a gray area where it's almost like the manufacturers out there scalping their own product at that point. And some people will take a dim view of that, but it makes some sense.
Yeah. TikTok, Jeremy Kiefer, 355 says, this is from a song. It's a lyric. I get that. I wear my sunglasses at night. We'll need to have a jingle, guys, that we can. Oh, we can't because of copyright, right? Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to figure out and make one. Well, my daughter's a professional musician. I'm sure we can make something.
And if you karaoke, does that also create a copyright infringement, even though you're singing off key?
Not if you sing it bad enough, Pete.
Not if you. Right? That might just be the case.
Smuggler on TikTok says the Ford Maverick is the prime example. It's a $25,000 truck that's being resold for at least $10,000 more. Yeah, I know for my part, Pete, if I ever find a dealership in town that puts a quote unquote market adjustment onto their cars, I will never go to that dealership again.
Yeah.
I have personally blacklisted probably a half a dozen Ford dealerships here in the Valley because of the debacle that I saw around the Ford Mustangs and the Lightnings.
And my final advice to everyone, and I know I've said this before, but if you're buying a used car, you should never, ever, ever buy from a dealer.
Yeah.
The fundamental reason is you can't see the person that owned it previously, how they lived, how they took care of things, whether it was a lemon or not. And in this state, at least, you need to pay a lot of taxes on top of that because that dealer is a legit business. If you're buying from private party, you can avoid the huge tax hit. And if you're buying an $80,000 car, that gets substantial with a 9% tax rate.
I have a question, Pete. You're saying if you're buying used, don't buy from a dealer?
Exactly. Yes.
Well, I thought if you went to a used lot, most of the time they would give you some kind of warranty with it. You wouldn't get that with a private party, would you?
No, you wouldn't have a warranty, but the delta or the cost difference can be substantial enough where that warranty cost just pales in significance. You know, the real reason that I suggest buying from a private party is you get to go to their house, you get to see how they live, you get to see their other vehicles, how they take care of their things. You get to actually listen to the backstory. Why are they selling? And if you're astute and you're in the people business, like, salespeople, psychologists, that type of thing, you can spot a phony story a mile away. That's going to tell you a lot about whether you should buy that car from that party or not.
Absolutely.
Instagram, Pasuk Kanapas. I said it different than you did.
Yes.
Hi again. EU has a regulatory body for the regulations and homologation of new vehicles. Would you recommend a proper body in the States, at least for EV vehicles, for this? Well, I'm not in favor of more regulation or the government getting involved in controlling anything, but you do make a point there. That might help, yes?
Yeah, something might help. I don't know what entity... maybe the Federal Trade Commission,
possibly yes.
Here in the United States could do something like that. What we find more often than not, if you think about it, okay, Tesla's going to put out 1,000 Cybertrucks in the first month. They're going to be hugely popular. By the time the first year has gone, they're going to have put out, say, 75,000. Popular, yes. Quite as popular, not quite as much. At the end of the second year, maybe they're up at 200,000 because they're ramping the scale. Now, yeah, it's just another car. So the problem is going to kind of take care of itself after a short period of time.
As these are released and more out in the field.
Yeah. And, that's what's been happening with the electric vehicles from Ford. You don't have to get a Ford F-150 Lightning any longer for $90,000 when it's a $60,000 vehicle. In fact, you go watch the deals. Sometimes you can find them on the lots for a discount price.
Yeah.
Just because Ford made more vehicles than the demand could support at the time. Too many people that said, oh yeah, this looks interesting, I'll put $100 down, decided at the end of the day, well, you were telling me it was a $40,000 car, now it's a $70,000 car. I don't think I want it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's supply and demand.
Instagram, JMP_JP says, why haven't I seen videos of Cybertrucks in the street? Have they been released? Yes, they've been released. And most of the pictures or the videos that you see tend to go viral because people are really thirsty for anything Cybertruck. And where I see the majority of them are on Facebook, for example. It depends on what platform. Twitter as well. I'm sorry, X. Twitter is formerly known as, or X formerly known as, it's like Prince. I never did get that straight either, right?
But you just said yes, Cybertrucks are not released yet.
They're not released. They have production prototypes out in the world. Those production prototypes are still going through the final testing. The first commercial sales to consumers, that's November 30th.
November 30th. Okay. Yeah, you're right, Jesse. I had assumed that they were already out.
Yeah, I realize they're not out yet. They're going to be out soon. But in order to get them out and get them through all of the regulatory hoops that are necessary to get them so that they can be registered when they are sold to consumers, they have to be out on the roads in real world testing.
Okay, YouTube, PYGKLB is joining us. He says, my Tesla Weekend did a video yesterday on how to get around the Cybertruck resale limit. Most likely scenario was Turo it for a year and then sell it. Okay.
Okay. I mean, the Turo is here in the States, that's an automotive, it is to auto rentals what Uber is to taxis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Niels is chiming in. He says, I agree about used cars. We talked earlier about where to purchase them. Don't go to dealers. Get them from the people that own them. A lot of good information available there. He says, also go with the seller to a good garage and have it inspected, or take a mechanic with you if you have a friend. There is always something wrong which can be subtracted from the price or become a negotiating point. Excellent advice.
Yeah, excellent advice. Jordan Klinganon from TikTok says they're all over YouTube. And I think he's referring to the Cybertruck videos.
All right, got a news item here for everyone. Rivian approved for $5 billion manufacturing plant in Georgia. Now, remember, this is a company that's still in cash burn mode, but not as severe as some of the other EV or up-and-coming EV manufacturers like Lucid, for example. And I think the last we checked, Rivian's cash burn per vehicle sale was around $30,000. So they've been approved, they say, for a $5 billion plant in Georgia. They have been approved to start construction outside of Atlanta. And let's see, we've got a bunch of regular or approvals here, which isn't going to be of great interest to you. But the quote was, it's a great day in Georgia as we close and issue the bonds for the Rivian project. Renting the site to Rivian is the next step in delivering this generational opportunity in Georgians in Jasper, Morgan, and Newton and Walton counties. This factory is expected to manufacture Rivian's R2, which is the next generation platform for their vehicles. The R2, is that the pickup truck?
They're going to have both a pickup truck and an SUV as an R2. So they're going to have an R2 R2T for the truck and an R2S for their SUV.
Okay. This will be Rivian's second manufacturing plant, following the first one in Normal, Illinois, which produces the R1T pickup and the R1S SUV. They are also approved at this site for a $43 million EV battery recycling plant nearby. So again, environmentally conscious, not just shipping them somewhere else and burning a lot of diesel fuel to get them there.
Not unlike what we're seeing with Tesla, putting lithium mining, battery recycling, and car manufacturing all together up in northern Nevada.
A closed loop system, basically. Yeah. Now, according to the state's initial announcement, the location includes just under 2,000 acres at a site previously called East Atlanta Megasite. It's expected to bring as many as 7,500 jobs to the area, and it will invest $5 billion into building the facility, per this report. The target is 2026 for initial production, and the company expects to reach an annual production volume of around 400,000 vehicles, so 500,000 vehicles per year.
That's going to be as big as some of Tesla's gigafactories. You know, I'm very bullish on Rivian myself personally. I love what I've seen. They produced 53,000 cars. They're saying that they're going to produce this year higher than what everyone thought initially. Their current plant over in Illinois can only produce about 150,000 cars a year max. So having a bigger plant like this, I think, is an important step for them. One of the most important pieces to me in this whole article was at the very last paragraph. It says that Rivian is also introducing an apprenticeship program, in which the company will select local students for 24-month training program, and then the company will use that to support their Stanton Springs facility.
So they're actually educating and training their employees 2 years ahead of time.
That's right. And as the first employees who successfully graduate from the program get through it, the plant will be in its final pre-opening phases, and they'll be at the point where they're needing to actually hire employees to get ready to do the plant opening.
It looks like there's some Georgia grants involved in this, which is, of course, smart for the state, because what they're doing is upgrading the labor pool to the new technologies that will be emerging.
Yes, and a bunch of the cost of the education is going to be able to be covered by an educational grant that comes from the state of Georgia and will be given to the students themselves.
Yeah. And, you know, as we get asked all the time, how do I get into this space, into the EV space? And having Gruber Motor Company operational since 2014, we're pretty well versed on what kind of training is required to make people proficient at working on these new types of vehicles. And again, as we point out endlessly, yeah, they look like cars. They've got 4 tires and a chassis and a body, but they're not cars anymore. They are substantially different in the drivetrain regions, and it requires a different set of skills to work on those cars.
Oh, most definitely.
So going to work for an OEM or a manufacturer is a wonderful education. And again, my advice is provide a good work ethic, show up on time every day, put your personal life aside for a while, immerse yourself into technology, get involved in the forums, educate yourself outside of work, and your trajectory in that company will be rapid and quick, because they are very thirsty and hungry for this type of talent.
That's right. You know, and for Rivian, I can see another reason why they are looking to do this type of expansion. It was just a week ago, it was just the afternoon after our podcast, in fact, that the announcement came out. Rivian's exclusivity agreement to produce electric delivery vans with Amazon is no more. You know, and you and I had talked about it, if you remember. We speculated, well, you know, they came to the table, Rivian and Amazon talked. Rivian said, we'd like to sell to other people. Amazon said, yeah, okay, but maybe we don't need 100,000 vehicles. And then that was that. Well, apparently not. We were wrong in that the Rivian was still negotiating with Amazon. Starting last week, Rivian is selling their vans to whoever wishes to buy them for commercial deliveries. And one of the underlying reasons for Rivian's continued push on this is that Amazon had told Rivian a range of vans that they would take in the first year. Rivian's done with 10,000, has built 10,000 vans out for Amazon for 2023. And Amazon is the one who came back and said, okay, well, that's good for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rivian wants to keep building these vans.
Right.
And Amazon is the one that kind of pulled back a little bit on their commitment and is doing just the minimum. And that's where Rivian got their leverage.
Mm-hmm.
We have more vans that we can build and we want to build. And now you've told us that you would take them. And now all of a sudden you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And that, because you and I were speculating what the leverage point would be for Rivian, that's it.
Well, it allows Rivian now to prosper, to get rid of the cash burn during ramp up, and Amazon benefits because they're a substantial investor in the company.
By all means, Amazon still has 17% of Rivian. Even Amazon saying, hey, Rivian wins, we win. It's all good. So Rivian still says they're going to be able to build out the 100,000 vans for Amazon, and they're going to be able to sell to anyone who wants to buy.
Some more good advice from Niels in Denmark. He says, and always pay the private seller in cash. We're talking again about buying from a private party rather than a reseller or a dealer, a vehicle. Always pay the private seller in cash and bring a book with the lowest value in hand. Starting at the dollars right there on the table softens the sellers, I have found, or staring at the dollars right there. You know, years ago, a friend of mine told me how to buy a new vehicle from a dealer. And back then, before the age of the internet, mind you.
Yes.
It was in the 80s. He said, what you do is you go to a credit union. They have dealer price MSRP books that tell you exactly what Ford and GM are, what the cost is for the vehicles that the dealers are selling. Armed with that information, a copy of that, we did have copy machines, so you could make a copy. You walk into the dealer and say, I'll pay you 1.5% over this value, and I don't want any dealer prep or any of these hidden costs in there. And of course, they initially say, no, can't do that. I say, well, that's okay. I'll go down to ABC Toyota down the street here, and I'll offer them the same thing. Then they would say, wait, let me see if I can get a manager. And then the manager comes in and he tries his, hard-pressed sales
Oh,
tactic.
of course.
Yeah. And I bought 2 vehicles that way. They eventually cave in because they realize they're not going to be able to play you.
Well, and...
Oh, and the other thing is you go at the end of the month, just before the deadline.
Have to go to the end of the month. And you all, and especially nowadays, but even back then, people didn't realize as much. Those dealers get kickbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, the MSRP is up here. The dealer invoice is down here. If you're giving them a 1.5% above dealer invoice, they're covering their cost. And then they go back to Ford or GM or Toyota or any of them and say, look at what we did. Give us our extra 5%.
Right. We have volume, right?
we have volume. Niels has one other comment that he that he added as well. He says, once this way backfired on me. There was nothing wrong with the 1981 Olds 88 that I wanted, and the mechanic praised it for all the original parts. I actually ended up happily paying 30% extra.
Oh, really? You got the wrong mechanic. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably in collusion with the seller or didn't know what he was doing.
That's possible.
Instagram, Vasu says, you can call me Vasu. What do you think about vehicle companies producing their cars in China and selling them in the States? What are their challenges in the States? Well, the first one, of course, is it depends on the administration we have and how high the tariffs are for product coming in from China, and if we're attempting to thwart that or to slow that down.
Right.
Other than that, it's a commodity. It's becoming a commodity market, and I think price will rule eventually. And that's why we're all waiting for that tipping point to occur when EVs are less expensive than ICE cars. The people buying them at that point aren't going to give 2 hoots about the environment or getting fossil fuel burners off the road. They're going to look at their wallets, the bottom line, and say, "This one's cheaper. I'm going with this car."
Yeah, it's started to happen in the used EV market space already. People are buying EVs used not because they're electric vehicles, but because they can go out and pay the same dollars for a vehicle that doesn't cost any money in fuel as they can for a vehicle that does cost money in fuel. And when gas is $4 a gallon, it can make a big difference. In this area, the United States, of all things, is one of the most heavily regulated countries in the world.
Really?
When it comes to vehicles and the barriers to entry for vehicles and safety systems and so on and so forth. And as long as a car can pass those regulatory hurdles, they can get in. And so I would say more power to them.
PYJ CalB from YouTube says Niels has good advice. I also budget for immediate repairs when I buy a used car.
Yes. Jiminy Stack on Facebook asks, will the Cyberquad also be limited to resales only after 1 year? They can only be purchased with a new Cybertruck, and they could be very popular.
We don't know that. Yeah, that's a good question, Jiminy.
Yes, I'm not sure right offhand.
Instagram, Vasu says, I love this discussion. It is quite easy to understand. It feels like a proper automotive community discussion. Please do this often. Thanks. Oh, you're more than
thank
welcome.
you.
Yeah.
We are here every Tuesday at 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time.
And for those of you interested in Tesla Roadsters, in about 10 minutes, we're going to start our Tesla Roadster podcast.
Yes. One Hungry Clippo on Instagram has some good advice too. He's talking back to Vasu, and he says, if you want a better experience, you can watch on YouTube as well, and then you can see the green screen images and not just the green screen.
Thank you for
Great
pointing-
point.
yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And today's image, by the way, is generated by AI again, and we were pretty excited because it's the first time we used a large language model to generate an image. ChatGPT-4 now is combined with DALL-E, and it can generate images based on your prompt.
Okay. Neil says, oh no, I think this was referring to the Oldsmobile that he paid 30% too much for. He says, I could see it myself. It had clean oil, new tires, extra oil cooler, et cetera, et cetera. This was in 1990, and the difference between 1,600 and 2,500, kind of insignificant. It was the best car that I had in the USA. So glad that you had a good car out of that one. The Olds was known to be a pretty good car, actually.
Yeah, big, and but yeah, they were a lot of fun to drive. All right, we're at 10:52, Jesse. Do we keep on going?
Do you have anything you can do in 3 minutes?
We do, yes. Tesla prepares incursion into South America via lithium-rich Chile. We had that as one of our news items or intros. So it turns out that Tesla registered in Chile and for a potential plant construction. But to be sure, registering for business activities does not necessarily mean that Tesla will go forward with these plans, but it does pave a legal path to do so. So it starts the regulatory process fairly early. And why would they want to do this? Well, first of all, South America is going to be a huge market, so that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
And it turns out that Tesla's biggest electric vehicle rival, BYD, is also doing this in Chile. They last month set plans for a cathode factory in Chile after being granted access to preferential prices for lithium mined by SQM.
So Tesla, it sounds like, might be getting into this not just to sell electric vehicles, but to actually be able to get mineral rights from one of the most lithium-rich areas, as far as we know right now, in the world.
Bolivia, yes, especially. They said that Tesla would face the same barriers that other electric vehicle sellers have faced in the region. They say EVs are on average 2.5 times more expensive than ICE engine vehicles, according to Bloomberg. So we'll see if Tesla actually goes through with this. We do have Mexico, Monterrey coming online here soon. And what we'd like to do is switch over to the Tesla Roadster podcast at this point. So we will take a 5-minute break and then launch our Roadster podcast. And for those of you that want to continue to chat with us, you can do so. We try to limit the conversation somewhat to Roadsters, but we'll squeeze in a few other EV questions as well. As always, we appreciate everyone joining us. Thank you. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Thank you, and take care.